Attention passionate Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the AFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Pittsburgh Steelers' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Pittsburgh Steelers fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your friends and Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, if you've been paying close attention to the Steelers lately, and let's be honest, how could you not? You've probably noticed that the team is in a bit of a transitional phase. It's a familiar story for Steelers fans. A new front office, fresh ideas, a desire to shake off some of the past mistakes, and a clear focus on building a roster that can compete at the highest level once again. And when I say new front office, I mean Omar.R and his team, who stepped in with a clear mission: revamp the roster, clean up some of the missteps of the Kevin Colbert era, and set the stage for sustained success. Now, it's only been a year since they took the reins, but the changes are already noticeable, especially when you look at their draft strategy and how they're approaching roster construction. One of the most striking aspects of this new chapter is the significant turnover in players, particularly those drafted during Colbert's tenure. It's almost as if the Steelers are trying to reset the clock, to rid themselves of some of the less productive picks that haven't panned out over the years. Take DeMarvin Leal, for example. He's a player who's been in the league for a few seasons now, and honestly, his journey with the Steelers has been emblematic of the kind of gamble that sometimes doesn't pay off. Colbert selected Leal in the third round of the 2022 draft, and honestly at the time, it raised a few eyebrows. A big, versatile defensive lineman out of Texas A&M, Leal was seen as a potential future star, but as we've seen, the results haven't quite matched the hype. Leal stands at about 63 7/8 inches and weighs around 283 pounds. Physically, he's got the size, but the problem is, size alone doesn't make a player. When he was drafted, many fans and analysts wondered whether he was a tweener, caught between positions. Too small to be a dominant interior defender, and not quick enough to be a reliable edge rusher, he's been a bit of a jack of all trades but master of none. Over the past few seasons, the Steelers have experimented with him, trying him out on both the edge and inside on the defensive line, hoping to unlock some hidden potential. But the results? Well, they've been underwhelming, to say the least. In his first 28 NFL games, Leal has recorded just 1 sack and 3 tackles for a loss. That's not the kind of production that makes a team confident in a player's future, especially not for a third-round pick. It's safe to say that the Steelers, with their new regime, are eyeing a different path. They're probably thinking, if these two rookies can impress during training camp, maybe it's time to part ways with Leal and focus on developing fresh talent. Because let's be honest, in the NFL, patience only goes so far. When young players aren't showing progress, the front office and coaching staff have to make tough decisions. And that's exactly where the Steelers seem to be heading. The coaching staff, led by Mike Tomlin and his staff, has shown a knack for identifying and developing defensive talent. They value versatility, effort, and the ability to adapt, traits that are crucial in today's NFL. That's why the focus is now on their 2 latest draft picks, both of whom could potentially replace Leal in the rotation and hopefully bring more upside to the table. First, let's talk about Jack Sawyer. The Steelers used their 4th-round pick in the 2025 draft to select the Ohio State standout. Sawyer is a 64.25-inch tall pass rusher, weighing around 260 pounds. What stands out about him isn't just his size, but his ability to defend the run from the edge, which is a bit of a specialty. Unlike Leal, who has struggled to find a clear role, Sawyer's strengths lie in his physicality and his technical ability to set the edge and disrupt plays in the backfield. He's a player who could develop into a reliable 4th rusher, giving the Steelers some much-needed depth on the defensive line. Now, if you're wondering about his pass-rushing prowess, it's fair to say that Sawyer still has room to grow. Ohio State has produced some solid NFL pass rushers in recent years, and Sawyer's tape shows a player with upside, especially if he continues to refine his pass rush moves. His ability to hold the edge against the run is already a plus, and that could make him an immediate contributor in certain packages. But here's the interesting part: if Sawyer can develop as expected, And if Yahia Black, another young interior defender, steps up during training camp, then the Steelers will have a real problem for Leal. Black is a different kind of player, big, powerful, and built for run stopping. He's not necessarily the guy who will blow up the quarterback, but his ability to hold the line of scrimmage and clog running lanes makes him a valuable asset. And with his impressive frame and strength, he's someone the Steelers see as part of their future along the interior. So, the competition is heating up, and it's fascinating to watch how these young players are pushing for roster spots. The Steelers have always prioritized drafting players with high upside, particularly on defense, and these recent picks fit right into that philosophy. If Sawyer and Black can prove they belong, it's going to be very difficult for the team to justify keeping Leal around for another season, especially considering that Leal is heading into his fourth year, and NFL teams tend to be less patient with players who haven't shown marked improvement by this point in their careers. The truth is, the Steelers are in a position where they have to make smart moves. They're trying to build a defense that's not just good but dominant, and that means giving opportunities to the players who show the most promise during camp and preseason. It's a competitive environment, and every rep counts. If Sawyer or Black outshine Leal, then the decision becomes even clearer. What makes all of this even more intriguing is the history of the Steelers' defensive line. Over the years, the franchise has been known for their relentless pass rushers and stout run defenders. Players like James Harrison, T.J. Watt, and Cam Hayward have set the bar incredibly high. The team's success has often depended on their ability to develop pass rushers from within and find gem players in the draft. Now, with the NFL becoming more pass-heavy and offensive schemes evolving constantly, the Steelers need to stay ahead of the curve. They need players who can rush the quarterback, stop the run, and be versatile enough to adapt to multiple schemes. That's why the drafting of Sawyer and the potential emergence of Black are so critical. It's a clear signal that the team is investing in youth, in athleticism, and in versatility. And it's also a sign that they're willing to part ways with players like Leal, players who haven't quite lived up to expectations, so they can make room for the next generation of Steelers defenders. This is a common theme in the NFL, especially with teams that have a rich defensive tradition like Pittsburgh. They're always looking to reload and stay competitive, and that often involves tough decisions about who stays and who goes. But beyond just roster moves, this situation also reveals something about the Steelers' overall approach. They're not just relying on the past glories or aging veterans. They're actively trying to build a sustainable, competitive team for years to come. That means constantly evaluating talent, taking chances on high-upside players, and being willing to cut bait when a player isn't meeting expectations. It's a philosophy rooted in excellence, resilience, and adaptability, a philosophy that has served them well over the decades. And let's not forget, the Steelers' defensive identity is built on toughness, discipline, and relentless pursuit of the ball. Their linebacker core, led by the likes of T.J. Watt, is arguably the best in the league, and their secondary has been solid for years. The defensive line, though, is where they've historically been able to dominate games, controlling the line of scrimmage and setting the tone for the entire defense. That's why these upcoming battles in training camp will be so crucial, not just for individual players, but for the identity of the Steelers' defense in 2025. Now, looking ahead, there's plenty of reason for optimism. The team has a solid core, a talented quarterback in Kenny Pickett, who's entering his second season and looking to take that next step. The offensive line is experienced and improving, and the coaching staff's emphasis on fundamentals and discipline continues to be a hallmark of the franchise. But the real excitement lies on the defensive side, where new faces are eager to make their mark and older players are looking to solidify their legacies. The competition at the edge and inside positions will be fierce, and every snap during camp will be scrutinized. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this offseason becomes a turning point for the Steelers' defense, one where they identify their future stars and finally move on from some of the players who have been in limbo for too long. Imagine a scenario where Sawyer, Black, and perhaps even some surprise players step up and elevate the unit to new heights. That would be the perfect blueprint for a team aiming to contend again and eventually chase that elusive 7th Super Bowl ring. Of course, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL, and roster battles are unpredictable, but the signs are promising. The Steelers have a rich history of turning young talent into game changers, and the current roster construction suggests they're leaning into that tradition. The decisions they make in the coming months could define the team's success for years to come. It's an exciting time for Steelers fans, and every camp report, every preseason game, will be scrutinized for clues about how this new era is shaping up. But let's circle back to the present, because as much as we love dreaming about the future, we have to focus on what's happening right now. The team is in the midst of training camp, and the battle for roster spots is heating up. Coaches are watching intently, players are giving everything they've got, and the fans are buzzing with anticipation. Every pass, every tackle, every snap counts as these young players try to carve out their spot in Steelers history. It's a story of hope, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of excellence that defines the franchise. And of course, all of this is happening in the context of the AFC North, which remains one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. The Cincinnati Bengals, Baltimore Ravens, and Cleveland Browns are all making moves, and every game within the division is a battle for supremacy. The Steelers know that to get back to the top, they need to be smarter, faster, and more disciplined than ever. They need to optimize every position, including that of the defensive line, because in the NFL, the team that controls the line of scrimmage often controls the game. So, folks, as we watch this intense competition unfold, remember that the future of the Steelers' defense may well be decided by these young players vying for spots. The decisions made now, in training camp and preseason, will echo through the season and beyond. It's about building a team that can not only win games, but also dominate opponents and bring that iconic Steelers swagger back to the playoffs and ultimately, the Super Bowl. That's the goal, always has been, always will be. And with the talent and determination they're showing, the Steelers are setting themselves up for an exciting ride. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YOUTUB algorithm to keep recommending the latest Pittsburgh Steelers news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. Now I want to hear from you, Steelers fans. What's your take on all these roster battles? Do you think Sawyer or Black will step up and take a spot? Or will Leal somehow find a way to stick around? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because your opinions really matter, both to us and to the future of this team. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, more analysis, and all the latest Steelers news. So stay tuned, stay passionate, and let's keep the conversation going as we follow this incredible journey towards another Steelers Super Bowl run. Thanks for watching, and as always, here's to the black and gold.